Good morning. Thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Infrastructure Management Global Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. Melissa Potvin, CA Community Manager, you may begin.
Thank you very much, Operator. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Community. Thank you for joining us today on our Community Webcast. We have a great presentation lined up for you today. We will be talking about Spectrum 10.0. We have Kiran Diwakar on the line, Director of Product Management, here to give you a presentation together with Nagesh Jaiswal, who will also deliver a demonstration, a live demo. Everyone's phone is on mute, as the operator indicated. Please feel free to ask questions through the Q&A panel on the WebEx, or we will open up at the end of this presentation today for live questions. So I hope you enjoy the material today. Kiran, I pass to you.
Thanks, Melissa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. What we're going to do today on this webcast is we will be covering a few key things. Spectrum 10.0, one of the more anticipated releases for Spectrum in the past few years. We've talked about that on a few occasions over the last 6 months. What I want to do is spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes recapping the content we have in the release and do a live demonstration of the key features we have in 10.0. The more interesting part, I believe, for this session would be the key themes that we are looking at beyond 10.0. So within the product team, we have been thinking that, okay, for our customers, for our partners, we have been mentioning 64-bit as the next big thing, next big exciting thing from Spectrum. Beyond that, what would be those key exciting things for them? And I'm very happy, very glad that we do have a few key things that will make a lot of you smile as you listen through them. So without further ado, let me jump into the content. Nothing surprising here. As I said, we have touched upon these topics over the last few months. What I did was I picked up our internal tracking list from our requirement management tool and just pasted it here. So these are the top key things that we are looking at from a Spectrum 10.0 content perspective. Certifications, upgrade to Java 8. We are having Spectrum 64-bit, obviously, one of the more anticipated features with 10.0. We are supporting newer technologies like virtual switching, port channeling within Spectrum. But at the same time, what we are also doing, we have spent quite a bit of our bandwidth on the top voted community enhancements. We've talked about them at CA World. We've talked about them on one of the earlier webcasts. What we will be doing is showing how those look in Spectrum 10.0 as we near GA. 64-bit. So we all know the motivation has been to reduce the footprint that Spectrum has in customer environments. We've been trying to do this for some time now. I'm very happy, very glad to actually claim that we are able to now deliver this as part of our GA version, which will be in this quarter. As you know, per our legal requirements, I cannot call out the specific date, but internally we are tracking the current quarter. So technically, latest by end of June, you will be getting Spectrum 10.0. We expect that a little bit earlier, but as I said, per legal guidance, we are tracking the current quarter, April to June quarter for GA. In our internal environments, we have been able to get 10,000 to 12,000 devices per Spectrum server, and on some of the machines, we've gone up to almost 17,000 devices per Spectrum server. As you see, the cap here or the key number here is 1 million models. So if you have devices that you will be monitoring more elements or models from, the number of devices might be lesser. Where you have lesser number of models per device, the number of devices per spectroserver would be higher. I will talk about the beta or the validation program, but just to give you a peek into that, we have had more than half a dozen customers who were able to get to 950,000 devices per spectroserver in their test environment, and they were able to run that with pretty amazing stability, and I'll talk about that. We've been talking numbers, we've been talking tables, and while my colleague Nagesh, he will do a live demonstration of a 64-bit environment almost at code freeze right now, I just wanted to throw out a screenshot here which shows a Solaris image on our latest build. You see the number of models around 1 million, the devices are around 14,000, and SpectroServer was able to consume almost 10 gigs of memory given the load that it had as part of the processing, discovery, and modeling. So this is real. The other key thing, we talked about that this at CA World was integration with GIS map. I think again we're pretty excited about giving something from a UI change perspective to the users. We had been looking forward to this. We'll have a live demonstration for this as well, but we believe this is again a step in that direction where we are making things not just exciting, usable, but instilling that confidence again that we are doing a lot of major changes, major features within Spectrum. So something we had been committing you for quite some time. Reporting manager changes. Again, we've talked about this. We've had at least 2 large customers during beta, trying it out, giving some reasonable feedback. They asked us to make some modifications, which we did, but overall this works pretty well now. We've optimized the queries. We have changed the way where we are storing the data in our reporting database in buckets now. So we have introduced bucketing for our data storage, and that is resulting in a fair bit of query response improvement. The other key thing, in line with our theme to reduce footprint from a Spectrum installation perspective, is supporting the latest version of CABI, which is a BOXY, a CA Business Intelligence, wherein now with 10.0 and beyond, you will be able to have multiple reporting managers, multiple SRM servers connect to the same CABI instance. Today, with 9.3, 9.4, 9.2, that relationship is 1:1. So we have some fairly large number of customers who have 15, 20, 30 reporting servers, and in those cases, we would be able to reduce that footprint of servers needed to deploy reporting managers significantly. Just a few screenshots to show how we are able to leverage CABI and how it will look in the live environment. The next thing we talked about, and again, our commitment to make sure we are keeping up with the technologies in the networking space that are out there. I know virtual switching has been there for some time, but our focus continues from 9.4 onwards. So we will be supporting port channeling for the Nexus devices, all the good things that Spectrum brings to table with these new technologies, right? Discovering out of the box, being able to model those out of the box, being able to understand the underlying technologies and the virtualization that these newer network devices bring into picture, and leveraging that intelligence to drive a lot better root cause analysis, fault isolation, and alarm suppression within their environments. Alarming, threshold, all those things are part and parcel that we provide with every new technology that we support. Same thing with virtual switching as well. The ability to model the catalyst environment of two switches as a single virtual switch, knowing that the underlying device are two in number, and then being able to map those appropriately in your topology, and being able to derive root cause whenever there is a problem intelligently. So as I said, reporting, locator searches, allowing them to go into maintenance mode, spotlight views, those are some of the key things that we provide with every technology, and you'll see that as part of the demonstration as well. Certifications. We've talked about this, 94941, over 350 certifications. In 10.0, we have over 50 certification updates done. The reason I put up this slide again is that content in maroon or violet, whatever color that is, the non-black color. So there has been a huge push from you all, the users, that certifications need to be done quicker and faster, not with a release only, because it does become a bit difficult to upgrade to an entire new release with a lot more content, even if you just need certifications. So we have been researching on this topic. Our architects have been spending a lot of time on some of these topics, and very happy, very glad that last month we concluded the research on this. So we concluded that it will now be feasible for us to just release cert packs the way, for example, EL does. You would need not necessarily upgrade to a brand new version of Spectrum just for the certifications. I'm sorry. So we are still working through whether this will be feasible immediately with 10.0. It looks slightly difficult with the 10.0 GA time frame, but we will issue a cert pack for 10.0 after GA if necessary. But the point I wanted to convey here was, technically it is possible, it is feasible. We are working through some last minute technical challenges that some of the other architects have raised, but what we expect is beyond the next quarter onwards, we issue a quarterly or once in 2 quarters a cert pack for Spectrum where the content will only be certifications, nothing else. I know something that people have been asking for. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, I'm pressing it. Okay, cool. Platform updates. Again, bread and butter for Spectrum. We have a fair bunch of platforms updated as part of this release. Red Hat 7, Java 8, we've upgraded MySQL. The key reason for upgrading MySQL was to leverage 64-bit version of MySQL as well. So there were some questions internally by our pre-sales teams that, okay, we are expanding Spectrum capability to manage devices. Would the database be able to handle that? And our response was yes, because we are going to move to the 64-bit version of MySQL as well. One thing you will notice here, team, is that if you go back a year ago, we constantly had requests and push from you all, from customers, from the community that, okay, Windows 12, when are we supporting that? Red Hat 6, it's already in the market. When are you supporting that? Java 7, already out there in the market. When are we supporting that? What we are trying to do as the product team is we are trying to be a lot more proactive with our platform support now. And as I said, we've been trying to do that over the last couple of quarters. So we are pushing ourselves to make sure that whatever latest and greatest version of that platform is available at the time of GA of our release, we accommodate that immediately so that be it vulnerabilities or any other thing that might be a hindrance for some of the users, we are overcoming that out of box without needing to do any additional effort or patching from our side. The next topic is videos. Again, we've talked about that a lot in the past forums at CA World as well. I just want to call out a few key things. With Spectrum, what we are doing is we are taking it to the next level now. So while our videos have been sort of reactive based on what you have asked, which we will continue to do, by the way. We have a bunch of videos lined up for model type editor. We have a lot of those planned for NCM, for MPLS, all that. But with 10.0, what we are doing is we are already in the process of creating videos for all the features being released with Spectrum 10.0. So what would this mean is when you get the GA letter, GA announcement for Spectrum 10.0, in addition to the brief summary of the feature, you will also get a link to the video. So our aim, our goal is the users, the community members will read the feature and they will click on the link and see the feature in action. So the idea there is we make it as easy as possible for them to get to use the feature as soon as possible. So again, something that we are being very aggressive about. As I said, I wanted to talk about the customer validation program for Spectrum 10.0. We had 42 participants for this customer validation. We began in March and early April, and we concluded the program last week. As I said, we had half a dozen customers being close to 1 million models per SpectroServer, and I saw there was a question on the Q&A roster. So it is 950,000 models per SpectroServer, not devices. So we had of these 6, we had a few customers rather who had 12,000, 15,000, 16,000 devices. One specific customer actually was able to get 28,000 devices on that SpectroServer. Mind you, almost 12,000 of those 28 were pingables, but nonetheless, I think the point I'm trying to drive is that we were able to get quite a bit of diverse feedback from diverse environments, even as part of beta. You see, I just wanted to showcase how we were tracking feedback from an issue perspective. So we had 65, I think the latest count, issues that were raised by these 42 participants. They ranged from crashes to usability issues to a whole bunch of things. We have made sure that most key issues that we were able to reproduce, most key things that were given as feedback, we have incorporated, and there are a few which are pending, which are the only exceptions which are going into the code stream after code freeze on our side. So I think it's definitely something we are very happy with. It has been a fairly exhausting customer validation this time, given the participation and the kind of things we were looking as part of feedback. With that said, what I'm going to do is I will transfer control to my colleague Nagesh. He has a setup in place, a live 10.0 setup from our QA lab, the latest build after code freeze, and he'll demo the key features that we talk about. Nagesh, all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Kiran, and welcome all, and thanks for joining the webcast. So I'll start with 64-bit, and as you can see my screen, what we did for this demo purpose is we had a previous version of Spectrum installed, which is 9.4, where we had 3 SpectroServers, discovered all devices and models, and 1 machine for the OC client. And what I did is I imported all those devices and models using the modeling gateway functionality into my 10.0 Spectrum server, and this is my 9.4 machine, where you can see the devices scattered across 3 SpectroServers. And to give you a glimpse of the devices which are spread across the SpectroServers is around 7,000. So what I did is I imported all those devices into my Spectrum 10.0 machine, and on top of that I also imported some other devices. And now if you see, the total count on this Spectrum machine is around 19,950 devices. To get a glance of the application models, let me do a quick search and show you that how many application models have been discovered, and I'll do a quick locator search on this one. So as you see, with the number of devices we are having on the Spectrum server, the amount of models which have been in this Spectrum server will come up really fast, which also gives a demonstration of the performance of this 64-bit machine.
Yeah, and that's a great point you bring, Nagesh. So if you see, guys, what we are trying to do is we had some very specific use cases that our teams are testing as part of upgrades and consolidation as well, right? The key scenario would be just upgrading to 10.0 without leveraging the 64-bit scale, which is fine. We've tried that use case. But what we are in the process of extensively documenting is you have 5 Spectrum servers, each having 2,000 devices. Now, how do you get all of those upgraded and migrated onto a single Spectrum server which will have all those 10,000 devices? So I'm sorry, Nagesh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to articulate or call out that point that the next few weeks, while we are going through the final rounds of testing, we are extensively spending time with our documentation team to come up with benchmarks and guidance from a scale and sizing perspective, as well as guides to help you with step-by-step easy upgrade as well as migration. I'm sorry, Nagesh, please continue.
Okay, thanks, Kiran. And as you see, my Spectrum one-click client shows a pop-up that there are around 320,000 models which have been modeled into the Spectrum server. And having said that, I also want to mention about this new feature, which is called a search query management. What used to happen with the earlier variants of Spectrum is if you're doing a large query search on the locator, then the one click used to hang, and the backend also used to hang the Spectrum server. What we have done now is if you're doing a large query search, then Spectrum one click will throw a warning that you're about to make a large query search, and it usually is understood that it would take time and to display all those models or devices or whatever search you are making. This value is right now default set to 50,000. And there's a configuration file where you can edit the threshold to up or down to whatever limit you want to set so that your operators cannot go beyond that search criteria. So having said that, as you can see, there are around 320,000 models and 919,950 devices into the Spectrum server. Let me quickly show you the topology, the alarms view, which is right now 8,000, and you can do like searches, and which comes up very fast, which also demonstrates the performance improvements in the Spectrum with 64-bit. Let me quickly show you the topology view, which comes fast as well. And here I'll undock it and show you that this also comes pretty fast, and you can see the topology for all those devices which we have discovered in the Spectrum server. So this was all about 64-bit.
So, Nagesh, while you move on to your setup for VSS VPC, I'll just take up one question while I'll answer it on the chat window as well. But this is important. Frank asks, is the warning dialog box optional or forced? So I think because this was a demo, we have changed the configuration to pop up that window, that dialog box, even for smaller number of devices in the locator search. So basically, Frank, there is one of the higher voted enhancements or ideas on community where the request was when the locator search runs into a large number of devices, spectrum is perceived to be going into a hanging state. So there is no response, no feedback on spectrum. So what we have done is, in this release, we have what is called as a search query manager, wherein you will be able to call out, okay, if the search query goes beyond 10,000 devices, pop me a window which tells me that, okay, the background search is in progress, so that I get that feedback as an end user. For the demonstration purpose, Nagesh had changed the number there to a lower value. You see there, right? The value there was changed to 10 devices. So out of box, that value will be 50,000 devices, right? So if the search query goes beyond 50,000 models, you will get that pop-up message there, so that you get a feedback from the system. So more around usability. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nagesh again.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thanks, Kiran. So with the 64-bit, I'll now move on to the VSS devices support for Spectrum. As usual, if you have a VSS devices in your environment, then you have to go via normal discovery console, do a VSS device discovery, and when the VSS device is discovered, it comes and sits under Chassis Manager, Cisco folder, and there you can see my SIMs which are discovered. So the two chassis which are shown, which are modeled as a VSS device, the dark green color shows the active chassis, and the light green color shows the standby chassis. And with that discovery, it also brings up the modules and interfaces for that chassis, as you can see here in the navigation pane. Apart from that, in one-click views, we have added the additional views for VSS. So I can scroll down to Information tab, and these are some additional views which comes with the VSS devices, as you can see on my screen. So as Ken mentioned, with this it also comes the other features like the maintenance mode. So when you can actually set the VSS device into maintenance mode, and no alarms and traps will be processed when the device is actually set into maintenance mode. The other thing is, as usual, we have the fault isolation and the correlation and root cause analysis for these devices. As you can see, I have this SIM which is highlighted right now as a VSS switch, which are configured with the upstream and the link. These are the devices which are linked to it. And if I go to Alarm tab, and I can have a correlation which shows the impact and root cause of the alarms which are coming on the VSS device. So this was all about the alarms, correlation, and the VSS part. Apart from that, we have the Events tab, which will show whenever there is a change in the modules or in the active or standby chassis. So there's the Events tab which will pop up, which will show all the events coming from the VSS devices. Apart from that, we have a locator search, where you can come into locator, drill down into chassis. You have a folder called as VSS, and VSS we have an options where you can search the chassis containers or the VSS devices in your network. So this was with all about VSS. I'll quickly jump to the VPC model, and pretty much same what we have for VSS. So you have to go to the discovery console, discover the VPC devices, and once the devices have been discovered, Spectrum identifies the switches which are configured with VPC, and having the same domain, it clubs into one VPC setup. And as you can see, under VPC Manager, you have a special view for VPC. It shows all those VPC setups which has a common domain ID. It clubs into one and shows as a single VPC setup under VPC Manager. As with VSS, we also have additional views for VPC, which gives the information and the monitoring aspects into the information view of the one-click client. As for any other devices and for VSS, we also have the maintenance mode. for actually the individual switches for the VPC host devices. Apart from that, let me quickly show you the topology view on how the VPC devices have been shown. So this is a glimpse of the topology view. It shows the two Nexus switches which are configured as VPC, and these are the links between the upstream and downstream devices, and it also shows the fan out which is linked between the both two VPC devices. And as Spectrum comes with other features like fault isolation, root cause analysis, the VPC also has that feature. As you can see, one of the devices has been suppressed because Spectrum identifies the root causes with the VPC switches, and hence it does not show the alarm on that one. So this was about alarms and the other views of the VPC devices. I'll quickly show you the locator search also. If you come down to the locator tab, you have something called as VPC Manager, and here you can search your VPC with domain IDs, or you can search all VPC peers. With VPC, you also have a feature called a Spotlight. So if I come to Universe Topology, I can search the VPC domains and has a Spotlight view support for VPC as well. So this was quickly about VPC. I'll go for IP device search. So now what used to happen is we have the locator search, which gives you more detailed oriented search. But what if you want to just search one device and you don't want to go to the locator search and do all those things? So what we have done is, with the one-click client, we have brought something called as device search. If you want to search any one particular device which you want to search by IP address, then this device search capability will help you to do that. Now, if you don't want to do a IP address search, you can also do a search by name, which I can do. Right. So it shows all the names which are starting with CIS, and I can do this quick searches or small searches which are very beneficial at the operator level or the administrator level, which they don't want to go at the locator search and do it. Having said that, it also has some limitations. For example, it requires an absolute IP address, so you cannot actually do a wildcard search or something like that. So if I do that, then if you see that the go button is not enabled, so it expects an absolute IP address, and that is why it won't show that go button enabled. And in the same way, you can do an initial search for those for the host names or the names of the devices, but you cannot actually do a wildcard search. So if, for example, I want to do a wildcard search at this level, it won't show you. So it expects the names and the absolute IP addresses in terms of the IP device search.
Yeah, and again, this is one of the other higher voted community enhancement, right? So, and if you see that, as Naresh was saying, the teams were pushing for a lot of out-of-box validation, making sure the edge cases are taken care of. So I think there's definitely that effort gone into it, and you would be now able to search those single device or a group of devices. Yep.
Thanks, Kiran. The last thing which I wanted to show you is the GIS map view. As you can see on my screen, I have this map configured, and it shows me the various devices as well as status of those devices. If I want to go and drill down, then I can click on this and it will open a one-click client. So if you want to view your devices into the GIS view, then you have to do a small configuration, and this configuration file, you can either do the devices by IP addresses, and if you don't intend to do an IP address, then you can also do with the global collection. Then you have to specify the name of the global collection, and once done, it will show you all your devices under that global collection into the GIS map view. Having said that, it has a limitation of 100 devices right now, If you intend to do more than 100, then it will show you a warning that it may show you a cluttered view of the devices. So right now the limit is around 100. So this is all about the GIS view. That is all about the demonstration for 64-bit.
Yeah. So thanks, Nagesh. I really appreciate it. So I think that was crisp in 15 to 18 minutes. And then in the meanwhile, I responded to some questions as well. And what I'll do is, before going on to the next set of things, I'll just briefly cover upon some key questions that I felt came up necessary to talk about here. So there was a question on what is the demonstration environment that we showed. So it is a virtual machine from our what we call as lab on demand internal CA ESX server, 4 gig of RAM and a normal 16 gig. Okay, it is the lab. So this machine is okay, a slightly bigger one. But the minimum requirement for Spectrum 10.0 is 4 gig of RAM. So if you don't intend to use too much of scale, too much of processing, you will be good with 4 gig of RAM. But for higher scales, higher processing, we do recommend 8 gig or 16 gig of RAM. And because of the 64-bit address space, we will be able to leverage that and give good performance. The other thing, a consistent trend on the chat window was upgrade paths. We will be supporting 9.3 and 9.4 upgrades to 10.0, and we do have a few customers directly moving from 9.2 to 10.0 as well. So we are testing that as well. So for consolidation, you would need to use the modeling gateway to export your current DB and import it into the new 10.0 environment, so that you don't need to go through the entire process of discovery and all the good things that you have achieved in your current environment. So one thing that we have been very conscious with this release is, okay, we are doing 64-bit, but if we make it very difficult for customers to leverage that, people will not use it. So we are conscious of that. So you will see a lot more material, a lot more videos on this particular topic that we believe will assist you to do that upgrade, that migration a bit easier. And as always, if you need any assistance, we have our support teams on call for you. Feel free to reach out to anyone from our CA team. You can reach out to me directly as well. What I'm going to do in the next few slides now is first touch upon how we are handling ideation in Spectrum, and then I will jump into the next set of marquee things we are looking for Spectrum. So, Spectrum has over 300 active ideas that we are looking at. We have a small team in Spectrum. We try to do as much as possible to get back to you with appropriate feedback. So I just wanted to run you all through the process we follow on Spectrum side. So the way it works is, new idea comes, we have a way of prioritizing that, which is the number of votes. So when we typically have a sort of a threshold of 30 to 35 votes. Given Spectrum has 1100 customers, I think 30 to 35 votes is a reasonable threshold to determine that idea is being asked by at least a small percentage of the customer base. So we review the ideas which are highest voted. What we as the product managers do is see whether there's a duplicate idea, whether the idea has been delivered. So making sure it's in the appropriate state. What happens then is we have constituted an idea review forum, and what that consists of the product managers. Obviously, we have the Spectrum engineering team, which includes our dev folks as well as our sustaining that level 2 support folks, and then we have our level 1 engineers as well. What this forum does is it discusses the idea, the general technical feasibility, will it benefit the broader customer base, and if there is a workaround that can be suggested immediately. So once we get this feedback on that weekly idea review meeting, we update the communities with that. This is a sort of a process flow that we published across the Spectrum group, and I know Kathy is trying to institutionalize this across our IM groups as well. So we do put in a fair bit of effort in this. what I just wanted to give you was a perspective. So as of today, not considering the ideas delivered in 9.4, 9.4.1 and 10.0. So this is beyond that. This is our current status. So of the ones which are around 300 ideas, we have over 100 which are in active review on our side. So basically, we have 4 which have been delivered. We have over 100, as I said, in the under review or in being researched phase. So what happens is the teams review that, come back with a response, and then we post the update on the ideation side that this is the disposition for the idea. Taking a cue from some of our other community members on Clarity and some of the other communities, what we will be doing is we will be posting a bi-weekly update on which ideas were reviewed, what was the status of that idea, and then a brief summary in this fashion along with the specific ideas as well. So this was something Melissa has been pushing us to do, and you will see that coming from us very soon as well. So changing gears, what do we have beyond 10.0? As I said, we have been very conscious as the product team that we have banged on the 64-bit drum for almost 7-8 months now. We want to make sure we now talk about the next set of exciting things that you all from the community have been talking about, things that our internal sales teams have been pushing, and things that our architects and our engineers have been thinking about over the past few months. So here you go. Things that we are looking at from an immediate, near to midterm future. The first one, asked by almost everyone on this forum, Spectrum web-based for operators. I think the key word there is operator. What we have been doing in the past few months, and we talked to a lot of you on the community as well as in separate one-on-one discussions as well. What we have done is we have separated the operator use case from the administrator use case, and I'll talk about that. I have a few slides to cover that. Spectrum support for access point and wireless hotspots. We talked about this at CA World. This is definitely something we are doing in the next release. Spectrum support for non-SNMP devices. Again, this is very interesting. We feel this is something different and unique that we'll be able to do that not many vendors out there have. Support for SDN. A broader CA initiative. We are working with the internal teams and we are very aggressive for this as well. And then bidirectional integration with UIM or NIMSOFT. Again, a lot of you talked about this. You are getting data and inventory from UIM. Why doesn't UIM get the Spectrum inventory, root cause alarms, and so on and so forth? We are aggressively working with the UIM team on this. Last but not the least, improvements to our layer 3 management, doing an overarching correlation across different L3 technologies. Again, mind you, these are all under consideration, but as you'll see in my subsequent slides, we have made a fair bit of progress on some of these already. So Spectrum Web Client for operators. As I said, the idea is every Spectrum install base, even the largest one that Spectrum has with over 150,000 devices in that deployment, that customer, that organization has only 3.5 administrators. So typically, a Spectrum deployment will have anywhere between half to 3.5, 4 administrators. So our goal here is let the administrators continue to use the thick client, the Java client, because it would be impractical for us to go and ask for funding to rewrite entire Spectrum onto a web client. So what we would be doing is we would be providing a view for the operators, which are in some cases in hundreds in a given organization, and try to take away the Java dependency from there to make the lives of you all, the administrators, a bit easier. So as I said, we queried a lot of users, a lot of large customers who have a higher number of operators, and we asked them what would be those key things that you would like to see. So obviously they said the ability to triage an alarm, the ability to see the impact of an alarm, the ability to annotate the alarm, clear, acknowledge, delete the alarm, do a bunch of those activities, and then the basic triage activities like ping, poll, trace route, and so on and so forth. So the other thing that we queried and what we came to know was, okay, along with the diagnostic capabilities and alarm manipulation, alarm annotation, we would want to see the details of neighbors for that view. It would be good to have the topology as well. And more importantly, the ability to carry forward some of the customizations that you have done on one click. For example, alarm filters. So what we have, what we started off with, and I jumped onto the next slide pretty fast, but this is what we came up with a mock-up that, okay, this is how we will represent the information on the web client. And our teams have been doing research feasibility on this for the last few months. What we have here in the screenshot is a live version from one of the feasibility environments. So you see the number of alarms. This is a live one-click web client. You can see the URL there as well. You see the key devices and key alarms in one of the views. What we also show is the typical alarm view with the ability to clear, acknowledge the alarm. You have, once you click on the alarm, you see the details of the alarm itself. The alarm details, you see the neighbor list, you see the probable cause, remediation plan, alarm and event patterns, and so on and so forth. And given we are using HTML5 here, all these pieces are configurable, movable. You can play around with this. As I said, this is just the feasibility. We were able to conclude that, and now we are very aggressively trying to get on this onto the next release of Spectrum. As I said, legal does not allow me to call out the release number, but I can assure you that in second half of 2015, that is in the coming year, we will be able to give out the first version of Spectrum WebView for operators. So again, we are very excited for this. We've touched upon the access point management, right? The intent here is to manage the hotspots, have the wireless LAN controller association with the access point. If there is a movement of the access point in the controller table, alarm on that, and let you as the end user be able to configure thresholds on things like number of active users, upload volume, download volume, and so on and so forth. SDN. Again, not just Spectrum, but as a vendor, CA, we are aggressively considering this, and I think we have some pretty neat use cases in place for Spectrum for this as well. So the key thing is obviously the ability to show the virtual topology overlay in Spectrum for that service chain, for that NSV through the SDN controller. What we are also looking at, mapping the virtual topology to the underlying physical infrastructure. So we are partnering with a few key vendors and trying to get that information for Spectrum to be able to create that topology, create that mapping, and then drive the cool thing that Spectrum does, which is fault isolation. So which tunnel, which logical entity was affected as part of the problem, and in turn, for example, which subscribers were impacted by that problem in that service chain, for example. So this is something we are looking at. Again, it's slightly early, but we are very, very, very aggressive on this, and you should see that in the next release or two of Spectrum as well. This is another interesting thing we are looking at, supporting non-SNMP devices. So we have a lot of customers who use performance management eHealth with CAM, CA Mediation Manager. What we are trying to do is today a lot of our customers push those events for non-SNMP devices into Spectrum using the southbound gateway integration. So what we are trying to do is doing a feasibility whether CAM can give us some additional information, and then Spectrum, using some of the core mechanisms it uses, create a relationship between the SNMP and non-SNMP devices, and then be able to drive root cause and fault isolation across these non-SNMP devices as well. So this is slightly early, but again, this is something we definitely want to look at because we believe this would provide a huge amount of value. the roadmap, and we touched upon some of these things. As I said, our legal does not allow us to talk about release numbers or the timeline. But for example, we can say existing is 9.4.1 and 9.4. Planned is 10.0. I can say it is 10.0 because we are in the current quarter that we are releasing in. So as I said, the current quarter. There was a question on the chat window as well. I can't tell you the exact date, but we will be releasing Spectrum 10.0 in this current quarter, April to June. And under consideration are the releases beyond 10.0, and again, at least one of those would be in second half of 2015. But as you see, we have a lot of things that we are planning for Spectrum. So with that, that was my last slide. As I had promised, I wanted to finish off the content based on the feedback that we have received the last couple of times. I wanted to finish the content in 45 to 50 minutes so that we get an opportunity to go have questions and any specific things that we would be asking. So, okay. I answered a lot of questions on the chat window. I'll try to pick up some of those more, but if anyone has any audio questions, please feel free to call out as well. So I will probably take questions as I see on the chat window as well. So and there are a lot of questions. Okay.
There are. So let's do this, Kiran. Operator, let's open up for some live questions. And what I mentioned in the chat window, Kiran, is if you can't get to all the questions that are in the chat window on the webcast, we will obviously save them and we'll have you a chance to respond and we'll publish later.
Sure. Okay, cool. Awesome.
This way you don't have to rush.
At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
Okay, so while we wait for questions, I'll try to go through these ones and while we answer, if we could. Okay, sure. So I'll take the first one from bottom up. So it's from Steve. Steve asks, have you looked at the administrative labor needed to support Spectrum 10 compared to past versions? If you have metrics showing expectation on labor improvement. So I think what Steve you mean is the administrative work. We don't have a specific benchmark on that, Steve. But what we have done is, as I said, we are looking at a fair bit of improvement because if you do leverage 64-bit, then you will be able to reduce the number of Spectrum servers you need to support. So that would be a direct time saving for you in the future. So we don't have any specific metrics on the labor improvement, if you will. There's a specific word you use, but we definitely believe there will be a lot of lesser overhead for the end users. Okay, the next one comes from Dave. Does the WebView for Operators console pull the data via a refresh, or is the data pushed to the client? So we are looking at pushing the data to the client. So the key goal would be not to make you do a manual refresh. I know that has been one of the things for our mobile application. We are improving there as well, but no. So you would get the real-time data on a periodic basis on the web client. That's our goal. Can we install? Next is from George. Can we install 10.0 over 9.3 without installing 9.4? Absolutely, you can do that, George. So 9.2, you would need to go to 9.3 because of the data conversions we did to support internationalization and multi-byte characters in 9.3. But if you are already at 9.3, you can absolutely directly go to 10.0. Feel free to reach out to support or to us if you need any further clarification. Camilo asks, I have a question. In the service dashboard, there has been a big change for version 9.4 or 10.0. Is it equal? So, okay, so Camilo, are you talking about the service manager? If yes, then no, we haven't made any specific change to the service manager itself. It remains the same. Steve asks, can we find out more about overlapping address domains? will we still need to use a different Spectro server? So Steve, yes, you would still continue to use SDM and SDC. As part of the customer validation or beta, we did have a bunch of customers testing SDM and SDC. It does work pretty well with 10.0 as well. But no, we haven't taken away the need or put in anything that requires you not to use SDM SDC. You would still need to do that. Fred asks, has the maintenance scheduler been improved to include an end date and time instead of current hours in maintenance feature? No, Fred, I'll make a note of this. I think I might have seen a community idea on this as well, but candidly, no. We will not be able to. We haven't made any change to that maintenance window feature within Spectrum in 10.0 because our major focus was 64-bit and some of the other features. The next one is from Josh. He asks, any word on support for DM VPN, that's dynamic VPN? We have it on our backlog, Josh. We did come up with a solution, but given some of the other things like the web client or access point, and then what we are doing with network virtualization and 64-bit, it hasn't risen up in priority to be considered for the immediate next release or two. Again, I'm being very open and honest. It is definitely on our backlog. We have a very clear set of requirements that were assessed by our engineering team as well. But no, we at this point in time, we don't have a release vehicle planned for that. Next one is Steve. Is there an API list to pull reporting data, or is there an integration with performance management? So we do have an integration with PC. I'm not sure if you have leveraged that, Steve, but we do have an integration with PC. We do have the Webby or the dynamic ad hoc reporting API, but no, out of box we don't support any specific API to pull the reporting data. No. Michael asks, what methods are in Spectrum for mining data from SSDB into big data tools? There aren't. So I think what we provide is the modeling gateway for importing and exporting, Michael, but beyond that we haven't considered anything. But if you have something interesting as an idea, please reach out to me. I'll be very happy to discuss that with you. Moiz Ahmad, he asked, would topology view be available in web service in the web view as well? We are trying. We are able to show the neighbor view, the list of neighboring devices. We are assessing whether we can use any graph or topology package to create the topology. So at this point, again, candidly, in version 1.0, I might think it is slightly unlikely, but we are aggressively looking at this definitely. Are you also updating Cabby Boxy that works with reporting manager? So yeah, so William asked this. Yeah, I completely understand, echo your concern, frustration with reporting manager. Assure you, William, you are not the only one or not the first one. But as I mentioned, we've put a tremendous amount of effort in 10.0 on SRM and working with Cabby 4.1. As I said, it almost took up 10 to 15% of our entire 10.0 bandwidth because we know that's an area of concern. But absolutely, I would request you try that once it goes GA. You would see a fair bit of difference there. Is there any difference between, so Roberto asks, any difference in archive manager in order to support large events that would be coming from these devices? Absolutely. So we have tested archive manager with humongous amounts of data. It crashed multiple times. It showed some issues, but I think the latest version at code freeze, it was pretty stable. So I definitely recommend you to try it once we go GA. But there are some positive improvements there. Saurabh asks, hey Saurabh, will there be a global modeling catalog currently in a DSS environment? If different Spectro servers have different type of devices, then we cannot load a device certification from one click. And I'm sorry, Saurabh, you completely lost me there. But yeah, I'll make a note of this question. Probably I'll reach out to you separately, ask for clarification, and then post a response back onto the community. What about MLS? Patrick asks. Will it still exist? Absolutely, Patrick. MLS will exist. That basic spectrum deployment framework or architecture does not change. Uwe asks, how long does it approximately take to start a spectro server with 15,000 devices until all devices are activated? And we didn't have that benchmark number, right? It takes around 3 hours, I believe, right?
For activating the models?
Yeah. So basically we do have benchmarking numbers that we will publish, but top of my head I remember that for 10 to 15 to 20,000 devices with around 800K models, it takes around 3 hours to
less than 30 minutes for 10,000 devices.
For activation.
Yes.
And for discovery probably it takes 2 to 3 hours. Right?
Yes.
So the largest spectro server we had with I think around 15,000 to 18,000 devices. Discovery and modeling takes around 2 hours or so, and activation of those models takes less than 30 minutes. Again, as I said, we will be publishing these benchmark numbers, and we're spending an awful amount of time coming up with these numbers because we know that has been one of the complaints from the community that there's no benchmark data to work with. So we are conscious of that. Dave asks, will the web client for operator console be configurable via CSS or XML? I'm not sure for what aspects of the UI are you talking about, Dave, but yes, within the constraints of the HTML5 framework, we are planning to use EXT.js. We will be providing as much customization as possible. Claus asks, any improvement on SRM? I missed the first part of the presentation. Absolutely, Claus. So, request you to look at the first part of the recording, but we have spent an enormous amount of time on SRM with this release. Camilo again asks, in the new version 10.0, do we have the possibility to restart agent in the console? So, when you say restart the agent in console, I did not understand that part, Camilo. Probably I'm thinking of something else than what you have. But nothing specific in that area has been done. Let me just probably answer it a slightly different way. Okay. Ankur asks, any updates on the native support for HR system uptime to tell whether the device rebooted? So again, a very, very specific question, Ankur. I'll need to have someone from my technical team to take a look at this, but again, not anything very specific that we have done. But as I said, we will have a transcript archived from Melissa, and I'll make sure I go to my team and come back to you. We use the REST API extensively, Frank says. I'm keen to find out if there are any major changes. During testing, there seem to be hardly any changes. With 10.0, are there any major changes planned with the web services API? So Frank, very frankly, no. So we haven't put in the specific effort on improving the web services API itself. But by virtue of the performance improvement of overall spectrum, the apps that are using those web services are definitely running better. Given that our interface for the web client for operators is going to be web services, we are enhancing our web services framework significantly for that, so that to make that data flow between the web client and the backend web services better. He skipped my question. Fred says, okay, no, I didn't. Probably I missed it, Fred. I didn't intend to skip it intentionally, but does 10.0 support clustered servers? So when you say clustered servers, Fred, do you mean clustered servers or fault-tolerant environments for Spectrum? If you do, yes, we always supported fault tolerance. But if you are asking devices that run in HA mode, for example, the newer Cisco controllers that run in HA mode, no, we have lined them up, but we haven't supported that in 10.0 yet. How is going? So Roberto asks, how is going to be the planning for integration with UIM 8.2? So we have an integration with UIM, Roberto, where we pull server and virtualization inventory from UIM and show it in Spectrum. We do have some thoughts on extending that for getting storage devices into Spectrum as well. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but as I said, we have that bidirectional integration that we are working aggressively with the UIM team for, right? That pushing spectrum alarms and inventory into UIM. That's what we are looking at. Ankur asks, how about videos for advanced concepts like southbound gateway, condition correlation editor, REST API, and so on and so forth? Absolutely, Ankur. I think these are some of the points we have on our list. I think once we go out with 10.0 videos, we will be aggressively targeting some of these areas. And the IM event that we are having in May, we'll be planning to cover some of these topics there as well. David James asks, can Spectrum 10.0 monitor virtual machines ESX hosts without depending on VPN? Absolutely, we already do that, David, with the UIM integration. So natively, if SNMP is turned on, you can still get that information, but for detailed root cause and fault isolation, you would need to have UIM in there, or NIMSFOT as it was formerly known. You would ask, do you plan to add support for non-SNMP devices, example managed only by web services? And I talked about that, you would, right? One of the slides I did talk about, we do intend to use CAM, CA Mediation Manager, to get that information into Spectrum. William asks, Waverly Williams asks, is a VM environment support for Spectrum 9.4 and beyond? I didn't completely understand what you mean by is VM environment supported, Waverly, but we allow Spectrum to be installed on VMs, and with 9.4.1, we manage and monitor VMware virtual machines as well, as part of topology and root cause. Steve asks, are there different capacity metrics for running Spectrum server as a VM? Not really. So basically, we consider the VM as a server itself, and the prerequisites that you have for a physical server, the required memory, CPU, those kind of things, we would expect that to have. Paul asks, please answer my IPRM question asked at 1643. So I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't find Paul's question. So I'll ask my colleague to look up for your specific question while I answer the next one, Paul, but I'll definitely answer that. Frank asks, Discover connections is only possible for one device per landscape. Is anything being done to try and allow multiple Discover connections to run at the same level? We have done that not as a user-defined thing, Frank, but with Spectrum 9.4.1, I believe. What we have done is added the capacity in Spectrum to queue discoveries, but that happens only for discoveries that have been initiated internally by the system. What do I mean by that? If a device configuration changes, that triggers a discovery for Spectrum. If there is an ongoing discovery before 9.4 and 9.4.1, the next discovery would just be stopped. It won't be initiated. But with 9.4.1, we added the capacity or capability rather to queue that next discovery and initiate that after the first one is done. So the short answer to your question, yes, we do have queuing of discovery connections. We just don't have that for explicit user-driven discoveries. We are looking at how we can do that as part of the upcoming releases, Frank, because that's one of the other higher voted enhancements as well. Dan Blanco asks, has this been tested with SOI Spectrum connector? Does this increase in the number of devices per landscape for SOI connector? I'm sorry, Dan, the screen moved up and down because of new questions that were coming in. But yes, it will be supporting the latest version of Spectrum SOI connector as well, and Spectrum SOI, SOI as well. So yes, it has been tested. Skip asks, what are the limitations for GIS maps, a number of devices or number of sites? So there is a warning that you will get. What we believe is anything beyond 50 to 60 devices on GIS map would reduce the value of that map significantly. So we have a check, I believe, for 75 or 100 devices, after which you will get a pop-up window that the value might not be very big and the performance might get impacted. So we are looking at anywhere between 50 to 100 devices to really give any true value for that feature. Carlos asks, what is the possibility to select a device and show me the services that device belongs to. No, not something we are actively looking at, Carlos, but definitely we will make a note of that. We'll get back to you. Hubert asks, will there be any changes in CAPC spectrum integration? Not in 10.0, but we have a bunch of things Hubert planned for the releases after 10.0. We are working very closely with John Murdo, Dan Holmes and their teams to come up with some more easy to use features and capabilities that would make that integration a lot stronger. So definitely something we are going to invest in the coming couple quarters. Waverly Williams again asks, is there detailed documentation for GIS map configuration? Absolutely, it's in 10.0, screenshot by screenshot, step by step, you will know how to do that. Plus, as I said, the video that we will be publishing, you will be able to use that as well. Did you find the question from Paul? Yeah, okay. So I found that. I think it's IPRM is broken now. What is the probable timeline for improvements to IPRM beyond 10.0 slide? Okay. Yeah, so thanks Paul for asking the question again. We already fixed the problem that we had with IPRM or rather REX 11.x. So Spectrum 9.3, Spectrum 9.4 and Spectrum 10.0 will work with REX 11.x lead. What we will be doing after 10.0 is that work that the packet design team has pushed us to do. So essentially, when this IPRM integration, or rather IPRM was brought to market in 2010, the APIs that were used, some of those APIs have been enhanced by packet design and REX. So we want to leverage that to give better performance in larger environments. So Paul, that work is being planned for the release after 10.0. So we will be doing that. Frank asks, supporting Java in a professional environment is more and more difficult. Will we get an OC for administrators without Java? Very candid and very frankly, Frank, I doubt that. I don't think we will be able to do away with Java requirement for administrators. And that's where we believe getting the web client for operators will give us the maximum bang for buck, because the use cases and the capabilities and functionalities that an operator requires are minimal and makes it palatable for us to go and make that kind of an investment to do that, versus rewriting entire spectrum to do away with Java dependency. So short answer to your question, very frankly, very openly, I don't believe we'll be able to get rid of that in the near future. Fred asks, as you have mentioned maintenance mode, can different child models be placed into maintenance instead of entire device? No, so the maintenance mode, excuse me, that we talked about was for VMware and ESX environments. So before 10.0, if you put the ESX in maintenance mode, that wasn't getting inherited onto the virtual machine. So we have added the capability to do that now. Dane asks, UIM normally runs in HA, but in Spectrum you can only configure one UIM integration instance. Oh, this is yeah, we've heard this from our internal pre-sales teams as well, Dane. So I think you should definitely make a note of this. So we'll get the transcript, Dane. We will make sure that we put this up on a priority for one of our upcoming releases, so that we are able to get you to put the failover UIM server and then have the logic in the backend. So this was definitely something we heard from our internal pre-sales teams as well. Thanks for that. Next one is Williams, GIS mapping, what version? Again, 10.0. Okay, so Nagesh, he was asked, okay, so you answered the question, 2 gigahertz. Greg asks, is there an upgrade path from multiple Spectro servers to a single Spectro server? So I think, Greg, you mean a migration path, right? I think it would be technically impossible to have 4 Spectro servers be upgraded to one. So we won't have that. But as I said, we will be having very clear documentation of how you can export the data from these 4 servers and import it into one Spectro server and carry it forward. So I think you'll be able to get your environment from multiple servers to a single server. We are articulating that very clearly in our documentation, but when you say upgrade, I mean upgrade as a single click of button for 4 servers getting into one Spectrum server. No, that we wouldn't have that. David asks, I'm hoping to see more and more videos, not only for Spectrum, but also all products in service assurance suite. And as I said, be it the ideas review or be it the videos, Kathy Hickey, who leads the product management for all our products, I report to her. We are pushing some of these best practices from Spectrum onto the other groups within Kathy's org. So you will hopefully see a lot more of these coming out as well. So I might have missed some questions, but I think that was the last question on the question and answer board. I do see one from Satya now. Maintenance mode, we have seen this in 9.4 when LS failed over, all assigned maintenance mode vanished. Again, we'll make a note of this, Satya, but I don't believe that specific behavior has changed with 10.0. Again, but we will go back and check. So as I said, all questions on the Q&A board have been answered. I'll review that, but if any one of you believes that we missed out on any question, please use the audio to ask your question and we'll be happy to answer that.
Okay, operator, do you want to open for audio just one last time, please?
Absolutely. At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, please press star and the number 1 on your telephone keypad. That is star 1 to ask a question. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. And there are no questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, Kieran, I think you definitely win the award for answering the most questions in a community webcast ever. So great job. Thank you very much. Great presentation today. Many of you were asking in the chat if this session was recorded. Yes, it was. We will be publishing the replay as well as the presentation materials to the infrastructure management community by the end of the day today, so be sure to go ahead out to the community later to grab that. We do have many events coming up. You see that on the screen. We have office hour events for UIM, NFA, another one for Spectrum, performance management, and ADA coming up, so please let us know if you will be attending. And there is an event happening middle of May in EMEA, the IM Dev Exchange, so if you're interested in that, please go ahead out to the community and you'll see more details about that event there. So thank you very much for taking time out of your day for joining this presentation today. Thank you to Kieran and Nagesh for another outstanding presentation delivered to our community. We are grateful for your time that you give to the community, and especially for reviewing the status on ideas in Spectrum 10.0. So thank you. That concludes our presentation for today. Everyone have an outstanding day. Thank you for joining.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect your lines.